see so many people. Yeah, good
We'll be
turnout.
glad to see you too.
Yeah.
Um, so let's formally begin with this session.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Words, so innocent and powerless as they are, standing in a dictionary, how potent for good they become in the hands of one who knows how to combine them well. Greetings to everyone present here. I, Sanjana Arora, extend a cordial welcome to all of you in today's session of Mann Ki Baat Seniors Ke Sath, organized by Wings of Fire SRCC, a student-to-student initiative to help and train students which firmly believes on the motto of sharing is caring. We are honored to have you with us, Mr. Vatsal Nahata of Batch 2018. He is a research analyst at the International Monetary Fund. He has played a pivotal role in the economics industry and is lauded amongst the youngsters for making India proud by representing our nation in the IMF. Prior to this, he worked as consultant at the World Bank's Education GP in Washington, D.C. He has a master's degree in development economics from Yale University batch of 2020 and a bachelor's degree in economics from Shriram College of Commerce batch of 2018. His core interests include development economics, macroeconomics, and policies in these areas. Besides, on a lighter note, he enjoys playing cricket, actively invests in the stock market, and is a voracious reader. We welcome you, sir, and look forward to today's discussion. Just an
Thank you.
announcement for the audience. Please note that we will take up the questions towards the end of the session. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. And I also request the audience to kindly switch on their cameras before we begin with the session.
Thank you so much for that very thoroughly researched introduction, Sanjana, and look forward to the conversation. And I think I'm very grateful that I think SRCC has played the biggest role in my development and in my personality as an individual. So it feels great to be able to talk to a cohort of SRCC students and help you guys out with whatever questions you have. Yeah.
It feels great to have you here, sir, truly. Uh, so let's begin this discussion by bringing up the very first question as to how was your experience working with the World Bank and now with the IMF?
Yeah, so I'll give you some context into this. So, uh, I always wanted a career like, when I was starting out, to be at the intersection of like uh, impact. So I basically wanted 3, 4 things out of an ideal job, which would be that there's some impact in my role. There is intellectual stimulation so that I'm learning sort of every day. There is good money because money is really important, no matter like, what people keep telling us, and all the moral high ground that comes with, money making is not important. Money is really important. And the fourth is I wanted a decent brand name to start off with, right? And all of these four kind of fit well with World Bank and IMF, which is during my undergrad, basically like third year at SRCC, when placement seasons kicks off. I had a job offer from Bain and Company for their back end role, which I think was paying around 11, 12 lakhs at that time. And the office was in Gurgaon, and that was sort of the first company that came on campus. Um, but and I had also reached like the final rounds of McKinsey, A.T. Kearney, LEK, or Job Consulting, BCG, and all these firms, but I couldn't make it through after the last round, basically. But I'd gotten Bain and Company. But I always wanted to work in the public sector and in the impact sector. So after SRCC, I didn't take up Bain and Company. I took a gap year and I sat for UPSC Civil Services, right? So I went back to Calcutta, networked with a lot of IAS officers, got their study material, and basically, yeah, prepared for UPSC. But I couldn't clear UPSC in my first attempt. So when I was at Yale, I wanted to be in a career where I could make some impact, and work, use my economics, and have a degree of intellectual stimulation and learning, and be able to work in impact. So World Bank was an ideal place, and they happened to sponsor my visa, which was another battle because I was finding jobs out of Yale during March of 2020, March, April 2020, which is just when the pandemic had hit and Trump was president here. So it was very difficult to secure jobs back then. And World Bank, the team I sort of interviewed with, they were very nice. They had offered me a very interesting project to work on, which I can go deeper if you want to. So yeah, that's how World Bank happened. And World Bank and IMF are literally like, it's like how Daulat Ram and Sri Ram are, like right across from the street to each other. So getting into IMF wasn't that hard if you're already in the bank, because the networks are established, and it's again, you're going from microeconomics to macroeconomics basically. So yeah, that was broadly like how sort of World Bank and IMF happened, and happy to go deeper into uh, any aspect you want.
Yeah, I would also like want to know the project that you mentioned the World Bank offered you.
Yeah. So the project that they were offering me was this machine learning project where I had to literally like code up an entire machine learning, sort of paper where we wanted to analyze which teacher characteristics best predict student learning outcomes. And the good part about that paper was that I was being offered co-authorship directly with the director of research of the World Bank, which is the number two economist after the chief economist. So for a 22, 23-year-old to get offered a co-authorship with such a senior economist was quite lucky, and was quite a privilege. So I got to learn hardcore machine learning and random forest algorithms and Python and stuff, and apply it to a real world data set and a real world project whilst being co-authoring with a senior, very, very senior economist. And I also got to work on a lot of operations and lending projects, which is what the World Bank does, which is we lend money to governments and we try to execute projects through the money we provide. So I was part of a disability education for deaf and blind children in Nepal, where the World Bank had given about $5 to $10 million. I was part of a secondary education project in Bangladesh where the World Bank had given about $1.2 billion. So that was a very interesting experience where I got to not just do research and co-author papers, but also um work and meet a lot of bureaucrats in the Bangladesh government, and liaison with them and get projects running on the ground.
The AI is definitely the future. Everybody's looking forward to, and also the impact that you mentioned is truly commendable. And also, on one more thing that you just mentioned about COVID. So, what was the thought process that you had that motivated you during this COVID time when you were probably getting rejections from the companies? And what were the factors that pushed you to try to be at the position that you are today?
Yeah, so COVID was actually quite hard in terms of getting jobs. So I think the biggest learning for me, which I hope even you all of y'all will take, is never feel entitled that आप लोग अगर SRCC से हो, you've made it to a good college, and in the future and a lot of y'all will crack CA, will go to the IIM, ABC, LKIs, and you guys will all have very good careers. Never feel entitled, because I think I had this arrogance and I had this pride that just because I went to Yale University, which is, an Ivy League, um, there's a red carpet rolled out for me, and life set hai. Like that's what I thought कि यार एक बार Yale पहुंच जाएंगे फिर तो life set hai. But that was the biggest awakening, but an awakening I really needed, because I was just in this frame of mind, that I am SRCC, I am Yale, like I will get a very good job straight away. So I had to literally fight my way through, cold email, like put in so many cold emails, use LinkedIn to the maximum, get on a lot of cold calls, like literally how you would call up sponsors if you're in the corporate communications wing of like the students union, right, to raise money. Like I was literally doing that, but to get jobs in the US, right? So I felt like a call center worker, and did all those things. But for me, I wanted to do it because like I just wanted to get a job in the US, because for me, like, and I'm very blunt about it, like, if I came to the US, I didn't want to come back to India immediately, and I wanted to find a good job, and I didn't want to settle for any type of job. Um, so that's what kind of kept me going. And another thing that I really did in COVID that helped me was focus on two things: focus on building skills, which was any free time I had, I would, prepare for interviews, prepare my skills, prepare my econometric skills or my Python and R skills. And the second thing is I never saw any news. So I completely switch off all media, all news, so that, I don't go insane by, all the negative news, all the hardships and deaths and medical trauma that was going on through COVID. So I completely switched that off, and I just went into my own shell. And I think that really helped me, uh, go through COVID. And I hadn't even met my parents because I was in the US, and that time flights from US to India were shut. So I couldn't meet my parents. I couldn't meet a lot of friends, and I was just in this bubble at Yale, which was very hard to go through, but somehow it just, yeah, I just pushed through it.
COVID indeed was a tough time for all of us in every aspect, for our students, for job seekers, everybody. And also, so can we say that this was indeed the challenge, the most important challenge that you faced in your life that changed your thought process completely, or is there anything more to it?
So I think it's not like this was the most important challenge. Like, I think every challenge is unique in its own right. And like, even getting into SRCC was a challenge, and like my first few months at SRCC was a big challenge, which was a challenge of a different kind. um, and then even placement season was also a very tough time, because it's a very competitive environment. SRCC's, at least in my time, was a very competitive school, and uh, everybody is basically vying for the 60-70 top jobs, right? Like, that these MBBs give or the investment banks give and stuff. So it got very competitive uh, even then. So I wouldn't say like uh, it was a it was a different kind of challenge, and every challenge is a different kind of challenge.
And indeed, the competitive spirit that you mentioned that still holds true when it comes to SRCC. And also that we will be sitting for our internships in a few months. So this is just one question that all of us have with us: that internships or summer school, which one do you think is better and why?
Yeah, I would say don't go to summer school at all. Like, I think it's a complete waste of money. It's a complete waste of time. And I have very blunt, again, very sharp, blunt views on this. I think nothing can teach you like an internship does. And I was lucky, like, both of my internships in college taught me a lot and really gave me good perspective. And it can be hard to get an internship, because in, at least in my time, there were not enough companies that came to campus to offer internships compared to the batch size of like 800, 850 that's there in BCom and Eco combined, right? So you either get internships through cold emailing and LinkedIn, which is what I did, or if you have some contacts or relationships through your network, you sort of deploy that. But aankh band karke, like, go for an internship. And there's no like, I remember, like, my first internship was at Paytm Payments Bank, and it was like Noida Sector 15 Blue Line Metro, and I was staying in Rohini, which is like end of Red Line. So I would every morning like travel from Rohini to Noida Sector 15 and make that commute back for like 3 months straight, and it was like the best experience. So I always recommend people to go for an internship and try to do as many as you can. Stretch yourself, because now is the time you can really stretch yourself. And um, summer school and all, it sounds very sexy, but there's not a lot of substance to it, from at least what I think. Yeah.
And so when did you start with the first internship? Was it second year or third?
Oh, so it was after my first year. So first year, I finished my first year, and then got my internship, and then Yeah, that was basically middle of May 2016 to end of July, first week of August 2016. Yeah.
So since we're talking all about college and all, so how has your time in SRCC contributed to your career and life in general? And also, what societies were you part of, and how did they help in building your required skill set?
Yeah, I think I can go on and on about how SRCC really helped me. So I was part of the debating society. I was part of economic society, and I was part of the CCC of the Students' Union, which basically raised sponsorships, right? I was also really lobbied and pressurized to stand for General Secretary of the Students' Union, to stand up for elections, but I did not, because I wanted to do something more academic and intellectual than that. Although there's nothing wrong in fighting elections, I think that's also a great experience. But um, I think, yeah, again, for me, the biggest challenge was that I was never a topper. I was never a high scoring student in school. So I come from Calcutta, and I went to St. Xavier's Collegiate School over there. And I had never scored above like 80-85% during, the end of your examinations and stuff. And it was only in class 12 boards when I scored like above 90-95% for the first time. And coming to SRCC was, all of these toppers, all of these like very intimidating like students around me. So that was a challenge. But I think, again, what helped me was like I had a few mentors in the form of seniors, right? So I'm sure a lot of people here are probably first years or second years. So one thing I would recommend is try to network with seniors in third year, right? So अगर आपको किसी का प्रोफाइल बहुत अच्छा लगे, या you like someone's personality, or you like their achievements, or some people have gotten placed in good colleges, just shoot them an email, or if they're in the corridor, just walk up to them, talk to them, and tell them, that I am this person, that I am very ambitious, I'm very driven to achieve, these are my interests, can you mentor or guide me on how I can do that, right? And for me, I had like 2 3 such seniors who did very well for themselves and who I learned a lot from. And what I figured out was that um, your academic intellect will only take you so far. It's a lot of personality traits, it's a lot of doing things on the side, uh, extracurricular activities that really shape your outlook. So my goal was, try to get a 8.5 CGPA, so that I'm not kicked out of placements. And above 8.5, I wouldn't worry a lot. So I don't know if this is good advice, but I used to study like 2 weeks before the exam and not really care much about exams, but I would really care about doing a lot of things on the side. So basically, by the time placement seasons came, my resume really stood out compared to other people in my batch. So I already had 3 international conferences. I had 2 internships at very good places. I had 2 positions of responsibility. I had 1 paper that I had sort of published. Um, I had done a great deal of work in the societies I was part of, and I had like 8.5 CGPA. So I felt that was good enough for me to crack placements and even apply for master's programs abroad. So I would say, like, I was constantly doing a lot of things at SRCC and surrounding myself with very good people. I think that is another thing that all of you all should strive to do, is surround yourself with very good people. So the friends you are hanging out with, or the people who you look up to, have like very good mentors and have very good people you surround yourself with, because you will gravitate towards that, right? And SRCC, like, make full use of the fact that you're at a great institution like SRCC, which has amazing alumni all over the world and amazing people in the best of companies all over the world. So you have a great legacy um, in front of you. So make the most of all your opportunities, whatever society you're in, right? Strive to work hard and do something unique there. Push yourself and become passionate about something. And yeah, that's kind of what I did, and I followed that, and it bore a lot of good results for me.
Indeed, networking is really quite the necessity these days, and also putting in your effort wherever it is that you're working, whatever site it is you're working for, is indeed something we should all definitely do. Besides, uh, you have done like two most sought after jobs of that of a consultant and a research analyst. So, how was this transition for you working as a consultant and then as a research analyst? And what's the key difference between these two job roles?
Yeah, so I mean, my current position as a research analyst is very analytical, very technical, and very like hardcore econometrics and economics. So in that sense, I'm more like just publishing, trying to get a lot of papers published, helping my team at the IMF do a lot of analytical research. Whereas at the World Bank, it was also a bent of operations where, it was not completely analytical, but it was, again, trying to get projects executed, trying to talk to a lot of government authorities, trying to design a project, trying to do a lot of um, meetings with many different types of stakeholders. So whether that's like talking to NGOs or talking to private sector people in Nepal or Bangladesh, or trying to talk to government authorities over there, it was much more front facing or client facing. This is much more analytical. So kind of that's how I would describe the transition. And again, another thing is, so don't uh, even though my title was consultant, it's not the consultant that you see in the McKinseys and BCGs and Bains. It's a very different type of consultant role, which is you're like an economic consultant, so to say. So kind of that's how I would define the transition. And again, another thing is, the IMF is a much more focused organization. So the IMF is much more purely about monetary policy, fiscal policy, exchange rates, inflation. Whereas World Bank was World Bank has a very broad outlook and very broad in terms of what they do. So World Bank will, they're in health, education, nutrition, sovereign wealth funds, creation of markets, like agriculture. World Bank is doing like all sorts of things, but IMF is much more focused. So that also defines like the role and the specialization as well. So
So how is this role of economic consultant different from the usual consultancy roles that we see at McKinsey, BCG?
yeah, so I haven't worked in consulting. So but from like uh, what I know of all my friends, like my roommate went to IIM Ahmedabad and then is working. Like my SRCC roommate went to IIM Ahmedabad and is working at BCG right now. So from what I understand, there's a lot less PowerPoint presentations. There's a lot less Excel. It's mostly like Python, Stata, R, these kinds of things. Um, to not to offend anybody who likes consulting, but it's a lot more deeper and there's a lot more in-depth analysis. I think consulting is much more it's much shallower than sort of what economic consulting is. And of course, like our clients are governments and their clients are private sector organizations. And I'm sure like a lot of you would be preparing for like case interviews and how to do guesstimates and how to sort of case prep. None of that is required in economic consulting, because we have like a particular data set or a particular type of analysis we're trying to do, and we sort of uh, I would say it's more like a PhD, like how a PhD student experiences, right? Where you are framing a research question, you are, doing literature reviews, you are publishing and doing a lot of regressions and machine learning analysis and stuff. And then you try to come up with what the data tells you. So consulting in the traditional sense, from what I know, and there'd be better people to elaborate on that, is much less analytical. It's more focused on solving business problems, whereas for us it's more about solving like more macro problems or more education related problems, or like that particular sector's problems. So yeah, these are the and there's no sort of case methodology of like solving things. That's there in consulting.
So economic consulting is basically more analytical and comprehensive in nature as compared to the usual consultancy roles that we see.
Yeah, yeah.
So also, how did you crack Yale University, and would you mind giving us some tips as to how to excel in Ivy League for Ivy League universities?
So it's basically like three things. First is like at least get a 325 or a 330 in GRE, or if you're taking the GMAT, try to get a 720, 730 at least. Um, Write a very good college application essay, because I think these Ivy League universities really look for uh, very good, high quality essays, and have like in your letters of recommendation, right? Like whether it's your professor or whether that's uh, your internship supervisor writing your letter of recommendation, like it should demonstrate that you've done very good work in the internship or in the class you were a part of. And the third is stand out from your peers, right? So the way I stood out from my competition and from my peers was, try to publish papers, try to go for international conferences. Like my internships were very aligned with um doing a master's in economics, or whatever. Like if you want to do an MBA, like try to have that. So my second year internship was in the Ministry of Finance, in the Chief Economic Advisor's office. And that internship, I really sold that internship to Yale. Okay. And I really spoke about that and what I learned and how that aligns with my broader career goals. I, if you're applying for a master's in economics, try to be very mathematical, like try to take a lot of math courses. So whether that's, real analysis or multivariate calculus or all these things, try to do that. If you're going for an MBA, I also consult a lot of MBA candidates through my LinkedIn, uh, and a lot of my closest friends have gone on to do an MBA, so I understand that ecosystem very well. Also, for an MBA, like again, a 720, 730 in GMAT is great. Wherever you're working, try to do impactful work and try to stand out from your peers. And finally, like a great college application essay goes a very, very long way. So, because think about it this way, okay? If you're applying to any college abroad, right? More or less everybody will have like a 8.5 or 9 or 9.5 CGPA. Everybody will have some internships. Everybody will have like a decent GMAT or GRE score. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself from the crowd? It is by a very good college application essay, right? It is by differentiating yourself that way. And wherever you can differentiate yourself in the other departments, right? Your GRE score, your internships, try to do that also. And have a very coherent story as to why this master's program or why this MBA program is good for you and how it's going to help you in the longer term and what your career goals are. So you have to reflect. ऐसा नहीं है यार कि 20 तारीख को डेडलाइन है, 18 तारीख को बैठेंगे एंड कॉलेज एप्लीकेशन भर देंगे. वैसे नहीं होता. You have to be very thoughtful about it. Do your due diligence, do your research, like talk to a lot of people and sort of proceed that way. Yeah. And again, the good thing is all of y'all have SRCC on your resume. So again, that's a very good thing already, because all of the Ivy League schools know what SRCC is, right? Because there has been a long history of students from SRCC going to these universities, right? So you already have that advantage compared to, say, what somebody from a Hansraj or Hindu or St. Xavier's College Mumbai or Kolkata or these other universities will have. So you already have that head start. Yeah.
All this information you shared will indeed help students aiming for these Ivy League universities. We also have this one question in our chat, which talks about the do's and don'ts at Yale University. So, what's your take on that?
So what I figured out about, like, what I found about American colleges in general is that there is no particular set of don'ts. Okay, like here in America, like individual freedom and individualism is like a big part of the experience, right? So you can be who you want. You can pursue your own passions, no matter how esoteric or how niched out they are. So you can really be yourself as a person. Okay. So, if you have an interest in, say, the arts or any sport or any particular field that really interests you, completely go for it. And the universities here in the US will give you that space and that time and the opportunities to do that. Second, I would say is try to really get a taste of like research over here, because unlike professors in India, here for professors in like US universities, research is their main job and teaching is their secondary job. Okay, so unlike professors in India, where the main job is just to teach and take office hours and sit in the tute block or sit in the staff room and like help students from a academic point of view. Here professors are mainly researching. They're researching all the time. They're publishing papers, and if they and because they're doing that, they're the best of the best. Okay, so try to get some research experience that way. Third, I would say, is really network as much as you can, because you'll have people from Latin America, from Europe, from Australia, from Japan, from China, from like the US, from all parts of the world. So really getting out of your comfort zone and trying to network as much as you can also goes a very long way. Um, and again, try to see, because again, another difference is that colleges in the US and even Yale offered so many electives, offered so many extra courses you could take from different departments, that really helps. So I took a course on Python from the CS department. I had taken another course in the environment school. I had taken a course in the statistics department on probability modeling. So you can really design your courses the way you want to, and that is the flexibility that US universities give as well. So yeah, like I would say these would be like my sort of tips that things you should really try to do in a US university. And it applies whether you're doing an MBA or a master's in computer science or a master's in finance. Like through my LinkedIn, like I advise a lot of kids from like very different backgrounds, and I sort of do that in a very structured way. So that's been my experience, that US universities really let you be your own person, and you can really craft your own path the way you want.
Curriculum structure of such US universities surely sounds very different than the one that we have in India here. On similar lines, there's one more question in the chat box that we have. What advice would you give to a fresher who wants to go into a research role? And what can be the building blocks to crack such an interview with no such prior experience?
What was the second part of the question? I couldn't get
What
that.
can be the building blocks to crack such interview with no such prior experience?
Okay, yeah. So I think um, if you want to do research, or even if like any of you all want to go into finance or equity markets or whatever field of career you want to go in, I think in today's day and age, like really investing in Python and R and machine learning is like a competitive advantage. Okay. So, all of you all, I'm sure you can take out 2-3 hours in a week, invest those 2-3 hours in a week to really learn some hardcore software skills. Okay. Because that will not just prepare you for a research role if that is what you want to go after, but even if some of you all want to go into other careers, having these hard skills will really help you. Okay, because what I figured out is just knowing about the subject matter in BCom or economics is not enough in today's world. Okay, if you want to future proof yourself, really invest in hardcore software skills, which is again Stata, Python, R. Even if you can do 2 hours a week, it's going to go a long way. And those 2 hours per week will compound over months, over quarters, over 6 months, over a year, and really um, open a different world for you. And these things also have great salaries and great demand for jobs as well. And if you want to get into a particular research role, again, start with building good software skills and try to publish a paper, even if that paper is not published in the best journals. even if you do some basic analysis, like some basic regression, and if you can, you know, put it in like five six pages of like analysis, that also goes a long way, because that will open your mind into how is research actually done. And if you present that to companies or organizations you want to work at, you know, you will really stand out, because they'll understand that, okay, this person had the intrinsic motivation to, you know, find a research question, find a data set, apply some empirical analysis, and try to, you know, do some, you know, try to answer a particular research question. So I think that really goes a long way. And for those like in this call who are from, you know, economics honors, I would say try to take as many math courses as you can. So real analysis, multivariate calculus, linear algebra, um, differential equations. Like try to do these sorts of things, and that would really help. For those who are not, for those who are in BCom, I would say again, invest in software skills, and try to really stand out in terms of analytical skills. Now, whether that's, I'm sure a lot of people in this call are probably like doing IPCC or doing CA or doing their articleships and stuff, right? So even within that, like how can you bring analytics and how can you bring these types of skills to the analysis, is something that that will really differentiate you.
This information will definitely help people looking for research roles as well. We have this one more question. As you mentioned also that you attended international conferences in your college tenure. So you want to know how to go about these international conferences and how can we look forward to one?
Yeah, so I'll post, there's this website I'll post on the chat box. So you can find a lot of youth conferences over here. It's called OYA Opportunities, OYA Opportunities. And guys, like, I don't know if you know this, but the best thing is SRCC will fund 50,000 rupees for any of you to attend an international conference. Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but when I had gone to the United Nations in New York for like their youth conference, right? SRCC paid 50,000 off of that. So I think the entire trip costed me about 65,000 or 60,000, and 50,000 was given by SRCC, right? So there is again, you know, insane scope that, you know, you can go to an international conference and SRCC will pay for one of those, right? So that's a great opportunity all of you all should tap into. So for me, um, like I can tell you about the international conferences I had gone to. So the first conference I had gone was the G20 Youth Summit in 2016, and that was done by the Ministry of Youth Affairs of the Government of India, and they had basically come to SRCC to interview people to select two candidates, right? So I think about 150 people, 150 students had sat for interviews, and they selected two of those. And me and another friend were lucky to get selected for that. So try to see wherever, like, and just Google, you know, like just put in the keywords like youth summit, international conferences for young college students, and you will come up with a lot of such conferences. And there's a lot of conferences that happen in Singapore, in China, in Japan, in the US. Highly recommend going for those, because they'll, you know, change your horizon, change your perspective, make you like more multidimensional in terms of personality. So do that. The second conference I had gone to was this research paper conference, where I had written a paper in my Ministry of Finance internship, and I had presented that paper to this economics conference, and they invited me to come to South Korea. I'd gone to Seoul, South Korea, and that also they had funded entirely for me. That is a great thing. So yeah, you'll have to be a little resourceful and find these things. For me, like, I didn't have anybody to guide and tell me, you know, which conferences you can go into. I was just searching them on Google and searching them on LinkedIn and stuff. So try to do that, and that plays a big role. And why not, man? Like, take advantage of the 50,000 rupees that, you know, the admin office will give you to, you know, go for these conferences. You know, why not do that, right?
The international conference you just mentioned sounds very impressive.
And I'll just add one more thing. They're not very hard or difficult to crack. Okay, so if you put in like some effort into filling out their application form, into presenting your achievements in in a good way, and showing some enthusiasm, and really researching about them, it's very very achievable, and it will make you stand out compared to your peers, right? So I don't know if a McKinsey, Bain, BCG is coming, or if any company is coming for placements, right? And if they see an international conference on your resume that is somewhat selective and competitive, that will help you shine out compared to other people as well, right? So try and do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that advice. Um, Considering the enriching experiences that you've had until date, what skills do you think one should possess for the corporate life? Since we're about to step into that world in just 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah. So I think I want to give you an answer that is slightly more insightful compared to, you can find a lot of answers to, how to succeed in corporate life on LinkedIn, on YouTube, from other seniors. So I think what I would say is like two things is, first, like, really have an independent mindset. Okay. Um, don't get into herd mentality, because see, what is the herd mentality at a college like SRCC? It is to get into consulting or investment banking, right? So a lot of y'all are socially programmed and conditioned into aspiring for that, even if that may not be the right thing for you, or even if that may not be what your passion or personality aligns with, right? So first I would say, develop an independent mind so that you don't get trapped into herd mentality. Because I know a lot of my batchmates who went for an MBA or who went into consulting or investment banking only to regret it later on. Okay. And I'm not trying to scare you. Ho sakta hai, aap log ke liye, like, you really actually want to go into investment banking or consulting, which is great. Pursue that. But have an independent bent of mind, uh, and develop an independent thought process, right? So whether you're thinking about any career alternative, whether you are reading any piece of news, or whatever information you're intaking, or whatever decision or judgment you're making about your life, make it from a very independent point of view. Go understand what the reality is. Try to take in all pieces of information and then make a decision. Don't make a decision because 10 other people in your class are also going into consulting, for example, right? Um, so that's one advice I would give that's really helped me, and that will also help you in the corporate world, is develop an independent point of view, develop an independent perspective. Um, and the second thing I would really say is, network as much as you can and develop some sort of independent network or relationships as much as you can, right? So on LinkedIn today, you can get access to all types of professionals all across the world. Reach out to them, frame a nice good cold email, and try to get like senior mentors who can actually guide you and who will open more doors for you, right? Whether that's, you want to apply for a job or an internship, or you just want to build a network to know more people in different industries, try and do that. And to be honest, like, networking is not for everyone. Okay, so but definitely try it out for yourself. Okay, definitely try it out for yourself and then see कि अच्छा मेरे को जच रहा है कि नहीं जच रहा है. Try to do that. Um, and I think I would leave you with these two sort of unconventional pieces of advice: is develop like an independent thought process and an independent mind, because that will stick with you for life, and that will help you make better decisions and not be trapped in herd mentality. And the second thing is, like, really try to build a network, and become good at networking, because that's again something that will really help you as well. So yeah, that would be sort of my parting words.
It's indeed very easy to get swayed by this herd mentality, which is why independent mindset does play a very pivotal role here. Uh, Thank you so much for sharing such valuable insights with us. It was indeed a great session talking to you, discussing things with you. Uh, On behalf of Wings of Fire SRCC, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for joining us today and sparing a valuable time for us. We also thank the audience for attending today's session and being such great listeners. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you guys and all the best. Okay, like pursue your passion, be curious, work hard, and I'm sure like all of you all will achieve great things. And all the best, guys. All the best. Yeah.
So
Take care.
much. So that brings us to the end of this session.